Welcome once again to Echoes Through Time, where we journey across centuries to hear voices of the past in their own words. Today, we find ourselves in the 2nd century CE, specifically the year 172, along the northern frontier of the Roman Empire. Our guest is Marcus Aurelius, the emperor known equally for his strategic mind in warfare as for his enduring philosophical reflections. His Stoic meditations have guided thinkers for nearly 2 millennia, reminding us that power must be tempered by wisdom. Gather close, dear listeners, for we stand on the threshold of one of history's most admired and contemplative rulers. Stepping carefully over the boundary of time, we arrive on the northern frontier of the Roman Empire, a vast military camp near the Danube River. Rows of tents stretch out, lit by torchlight in the early evening gloom. Soldiers huddle around campfires, their breath visible in the crisp air. Marcus Aurelius, in a simple wool cloak, stands near a modest fire, absorbed in thought. He greets us with a nod, embodying the quiet composure for which he's famed. The year is around 172 CE, and Rome is in the midst of a grueling campaign against the Germanic tribes, while an unrelenting plague still troubles the empire's provinces.
Greetings, Emperor Marcus Aurelius. It's an honor to meet you, though I admit I'm a bit nervous. Everything here is so different from what I know.
Greetings, traveler. Do not be troubled by difference. It is often through difference that we learn the most. Step closer to the warmth. We have enough cold winds on the frontier without letting them freeze our conversation.
Thank you. It's surprisingly chilly. I thought the Roman Empire was all sunshine and grand villas, but I see there's a lot more complexity in your domain. How are you handling the war here on the Danube?
War, my young friend, is always a sorrowful necessity. The northern tribes, Marcomanni, Quadi, and others, seek to push into our territories. They are fierce and not easily deterred. I have spent many days and nights alongside my legions here, striving to protect the empire's borders. Leading these men demands not just strategy, but also a certain empathy. They endure hardships, as do the people we face in battle. Each side believes it fights for survival. Yet it is my duty to preserve the order and stability Rome has cultivated over centuries.
That sounds incredibly stressful. And there's also the plague. Some call it the Antonine Plague, ravaging your territories. How do you keep calm under such enormous pressure?
Calmness comes from recognizing what lies within my control and accepting what does not. The plague tests our resolve. It humbles us. I witness families mourning their dead, entire towns struggling, and our armies weakened. Yet despair serves no one. When fear arises, I remind myself, I cannot halt death, but I can strive to ensure compassion for the living, resources for the afflicted, and unity among those who remain. This perspective is at the heart of my Stoic practice. We shape our responses, not always our circumstances.
Your Stoic philosophy is famous, even in my time. You've written the Meditations, notes to yourself, right?
Yes. I compose them mostly in Greek, for they are personal reminders of the principles I hold dear. I reflect on impermanence, on virtue as life's highest pursuit, and on the interconnectedness of all beings. I never intended these writings for others. They are letters to my own soul, a way to hold myself accountable. If they survive beyond me, I hoped they might guide others to wisdom and humility.
I love the idea that an emperor, commanding so much power, writes personal reflections to stay grounded. How did you become so passionate about philosophy in the first place?
From my youth, I was mentored by remarkable teachers. Emperor Hadrian recognized a certain earnestness in me and ensured I received a broad education. Later, my tutor Rusticus introduced me to the teachings of Epictetus, whose words lit a fire within. I found Stoicism offered a guide to live in harmony with reason and virtue. Even before I was emperor, I studied philosophy as if it were a craft to be practiced daily. Indeed, to lead others, one must first learn to lead oneself.
That's a beautiful sentiment. Speaking of leadership, you chose to co-rule at first with Lucius Verus, right? That was unusual for Rome.
Indeed. When Antoninus Pius passed, I insisted Lucius Verus, my adoptive brother, share the imperial power. I believed in partnership, in dividing duties for the betterment of Rome. He led campaigns in the east, particularly against the Parthians, and though we had differences in temperament, I strove for a harmonious governance. Sadly, he died not long afterward. Still, our joint rule was an experiment in collaboration, reflecting my conviction that a single mind, no matter how wise, should not shoulder all burdens.
What about the Marcomannic Wars themselves? Have there been any especially harrowing moments you've experienced on this frontier?
There have been many, but one stands out. Some call it the rain miracle. My troops were surrounded by the Quadi, fatigued and parched in the sweltering heat. We faced near certain defeat. Then suddenly the heavens opened. Torrential rain drenched us, restoring our energy, while thunder and lightning unnerved our foes. Whether it was divine intervention or merely nature's caprice, it reminded me how small we are before the greater forces. Events like that humble me and strengthen my resolve.
I've heard different stories about that incident. Christians claimed their prayers saved the legion, while others speak of Egyptian sorcerers. What's your own take on it?
Different hearts will interpret wonders differently, each according to their beliefs. I neither dismiss the possibility of divine grace, nor credit it to any single group. The rain came at our darkest hour, and for that, I give thanks to whatever providence or chance orchestrated it. Stoicism teaches me to remain open to the workings of fate, while recognizing we cannot fully fathom all mysteries.
That openness is impressive. Let's talk about your perspective on religion generally. Rome is polytheistic, but there's also Christianity, mystery cults, a lot of variety. How do you navigate that?
Rome has long prided itself on piety to the traditional gods, on public rituals that hold our society together. Yet we are a vast empire of many peoples and faiths. I believe we must maintain order and respect the state gods, for these traditions have shaped our collective identity. As for Christians, I do not personally hunt them down. Some among them show admirable fortitude, though others strike me as stubborn in refusing Roman rites. I prefer calm tolerance so long as stability is preserved. Still, times of crisis often see the public lashing out at minorities. I counsel moderation, but I cannot always quell the fervor of mobs.
That must be tough. Shifting to a personal topic, you and Faustina had a large family, but I know you also faced many losses. How did that affect you emotionally?
My beloved Faustina and I had many children, but the fates are cruel. Infant mortality haunts our age. Each loss was a wound to my heart, a test of my Stoic convictions. When one experiences such sorrows, it's easy to lose hope or grow bitter. But through reflection, I chose to treasure the fleeting moments we had. My grief remains, yet from it I draw empathy for all parents who mourn. If an emperor cannot share in the common sorrows of humanity, then he is no leader at all.
Some rumors say Faustina was unfaithful, wild stories about gladiators. How do you respond to those kinds of rumors?
Gossip is often a reflection of the speaker, not the subject. Such tales about Faustina are baseless, though gossip finds a ready ear in imperial courts. I knew her heart. She stood by me in war zones, endured hardships no courtly life would demand, and shared my burdens with unwavering loyalty. I pay such rumors no heed, for to dwell on them would only add weight to falsehoods that do not merit my attention.
Your relationship sounds deep. Losing her must have been devastating.
It was. When she passed during the campaign in the East, the ache seemed unendurable, but Stoicism guided me to continue my duties. I had her deified, partly to honor her memory, and partly to console my own grief. I wish I could have retreated from responsibility to mourn, but an emperor's tasks wait for no one. Enduring sorrow and still performing one's obligations is among life's harshest lessons.
You've definitely had your share of trials. Plague, war, personal loss, even a rebellion led by Avidius Cassius. How did you handle that revolt?
When I learned that Cassius declared himself emperor on a false rumor of my death, I was dismayed, but not enraged. I prepared to grant clemency, hoping to avoid further bloodshed. Before I could confront him, his own soldiers took his life. Rebellion, like disease, arises in a climate of uncertainty. My duty was to restore stability, but I sought to do so with minimal cruelty. Vengeance begets more strife. Leniency can restore harmony, if carefully managed.
That's a rare mindset. Most rulers would have acted harshly. Does that approach extend to how you govern day to day?
I strive for it. Rome's laws can be severe, especially against the lower classes. But whenever possible, I temper justice with mercy. I've reformed some legal codes to protect slaves from undue violence, to appoint guardians for orphans, and to curtail the most brutal aspects of gladiatorial shows. Still, I am aware that one emperor's will cannot instantly transform society. These measures are incremental, but I pray they foster a more humane empire.
It sounds like compassion is a big theme in your reign, yet some might say Rome still thrives on conquest, wealth from provinces, and slave labor. How do you reconcile that with Stoic morality?
I am not blind to the empire's contradictions. We have inherited a massive apparatus of conquest and subjugation formed over centuries. My role is to manage and refine it, not to upend it overnight. But within that framework, I can promote equity and reduce suffering. For instance, encouraging fairer treatment of slaves does not abolish slavery, but it may prevent heinous abuses. Change must be guided step by step. If Stoic ideals can gradually soften the empire's edges, then the seeds of compassion may grow for future generations.
Let's talk about your famous quote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." That resonates strongly, even now. Could you elaborate?
It's easy to become entangled in philosophical debates, discussing virtue endlessly without practicing it. Yet at some point, words must yield to actions. Reflect certainly, but do not let reflection paralyze you. Every day offers opportunities to show kindness, to act justly, to exercise discipline. That is how one truly embodies philosophy. In an age where scholars can argue rhetoric for hours, I prefer the clarity of deeds.
I've noticed many references in your meditations about the brevity of life and the inevitability of death. Why is that theme so prominent for you?
Because nothing sharpens one's perspective like the reminder that our days are finite. With death ever near, on battlefields, from plague or through chance, we must focus on what truly matters, living virtuously and leaving the world a bit better than we found it. When I think of how swiftly empires rise and fall, how entire generations vanish, I realize how small I am in the grand cosmos. Yet from that smallness arises a sense of gratitude for each moment, and an urgency to lead with wisdom.
It's humbling. Now I'd like to ask about your son, Commodus. You've named him co-emperor. but historical accounts, well, from my perspective, suggest he might not embody your values. Are you aware of people's doubts about him?
I am aware. Commodus is young, and youth can be prone to indulgence and poor counsel. Yet, as his father, I hold hope that he will grow into the virtues I endeavor to teach him. The tradition of adoption served Rome well in the past. In my case, I felt compelled to secure the lineage through my own blood. It is a gamble of both heart and duty. Time alone will reveal the outcome.
Well, I hope he learns from your example. Has fatherhood shaped your philosophy in ways you didn't expect?
Indeed, fatherhood amplifies empathy. When I see my children, those who survived and those I lost, I feel the fragility of life more keenly. It has made me gentler in judgment and more resolute in ensuring stability. A father wishes to leave a secure and just world to his offspring. If any aspect of my Stoic practice deepened, it is my understanding that love and duty are intertwined. One cannot be a good father without striving also to be a good man, and to be a good man is to serve the common good.
Do you ever dream of a life outside the pressures of the throne? Just being a philosopher in a quiet study somewhere in Athens or Rome?
Oh, quite often. The notion of retreating to a villa, immersing myself in scrolls, discussing philosophy with peers, is tempting. But such a life is not my fate. Duty found me. I must accept the role of emperor and the burdens it carries. Still, I indulge in pockets of solitude when I can, moments where I write or read, removed briefly from the clamor of command. Those moments renew my spirit and remind me who I am beyond the purple robe.
What do you read these days, when you manage to slip away from imperial demands?
I revisit the works of Epictetus, for his discourses remain ever relevant. I also enjoy reading Homer, finding lessons on heroism and human folly in his verses. And I peruse letters from my old tutor Fronto, whose rhetorical flourishes both amuse and instruct me. Reading is an exercise in perspective, bridging minds across time and space.
It's fascinating how you combine the martial obligations of an emperor with a scholar's passion. Speaking of obligations, could you share how you manage to keep morale high among your soldiers, especially during a long campaign like this one?
I walk among them, share their hardships, listen to their grievances. When possible, I ensure they have ample provisions, fair pay, and the sense that their sacrifices matter. In the evenings, I speak to them not as a distant ruler, but as a fellow Roman. They know I endure the same cold nights and see the same terrors on the battlefield. Leading by example fosters loyalty. Stoicism also shapes how I address them. I remind them that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it for a cause greater than oneself.
You mentioned controlling the brutality of gladiatorial games. Why not ban them altogether if you dislike them so much?
Gladiatorial games are deeply ingrained in Roman culture. To abolish them abruptly would risk public unrest. Instead, I impose regulations, limiting lethal matches, encouraging contests of skill more than bloodshed, and ensuring that combatants are not forced into certain death. It is a compromise, an incremental step. Perhaps in time, such spectacles will evolve into something less cruel. I prefer a measured approach, allowing society to adapt rather than provoking abrupt chaos.
That makes sense. Can you tell me about how you interact with the Senate? I've heard you value their counsel more than some of your predecessors did.
The Senate, in theory, represents Rome's aristocratic wisdom. I consult them out of respect for tradition, and because no single mind, emperor or not, possesses all knowledge. My adoptive father, Antoninus Pius, set an example of working collaboratively. Though I hold ultimate power, I strive to listen and incorporate diverse perspectives. This does not mean I always follow the Senate's wishes. Tension arises at times. But open dialogue prevents the empire from becoming a tyranny of one mind.
I've read that you even sold palace treasures to help fund your campaigns. That's quite a step for an emperor.
Extravagance in the face of dire necessity seemed shameful to me. When the treasury strained under the cost of war, I auctioned off furnishings and luxuries from the imperial household. It served two purposes: to replenish our war chest and to signal that I too share in sacrifices. Leadership demands giving up personal comfort when the public good is at stake. I suspect some patricians found it scandalous. I found it necessary.
Your leadership style feels revolutionary for the age. Do you see yourself as a reformer or as a custodian of tradition?
I see myself as both. The empire's longevity depends on respecting its foundational structures while adapting to new realities. Tradition gives us roots. Reform keeps us relevant. If we adhere blindly to the past, we stagnate. If we discard tradition entirely, we risk anarchy. My aim is a balanced path, rooted in Rome's history, yet shaped by philosophical reason and evolving needs.
Let's shift toward the deeper philosophical side again. What is the core principle of Stoicism that you find most essential to daily life?
I'd say the recognition that we must live in accordance with nature, guided by reason and virtue. The Stoic virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, offer a blueprint for living well. We cannot control external events, but we can cultivate a virtuous inner state. This principle anchors my actions each day, reminding me that external success is empty without inner integrity.
With everything you face, enemies at the gate, plague at home, political intrigues, does your philosophical practice ever waver?
Certainly. Stoicism is a constant practice, not an unshakable state. I have moments of impatience, sorrow, or frustration. Yet I return to the discipline of reflection. I remind myself that difficulties are part of life, that fortune is fickle. These reminders realign my perspective. A Stoic is not one who feels nothing, but one who strives to respond virtuously to whatever arises.
That distinction is so important. Another curiosity, you write in Greek. Is that just because you love the language, or do you feel a deeper connection to Greek culture?
Greek is the tongue of philosophy. Many of the great thinkers, Plato, Aristotle, Epictetus, wrote in Greek. Using their language places me in direct dialogue with their ideas, free from the embellishments of translation. Rome owes much to Greek learning, from rhetoric to medicine. In a way, writing in Greek is my homage to that heritage.
We have maybe time for a few more questions. The empire you rule is massive, spanning from Britannia to Egypt. Do you worry that it's becoming too large to govern effectively?
It is a legitimate concern. Communication is slow. Local cultures are diverse, and the frontiers face frequent incursions. Governance demands capable administrators across the provinces. We rely heavily on local elites who adopt Roman ways. The challenge is maintaining unity without stifling regional identities. Rome has endured because it assimilates others, forging a common civic identity. But indeed, the strain is evident in these wars. We must adapt if we are to remain strong.
Some historians might say the empire starts declining soon after your reign. Does that worry you?
All things that rise eventually fall. If the seeds of decline are sown, my aim is to nurture the seeds of renewal too. Empires, like men, are mortal. But as each person should strive to live virtuously, despite death's inevitability, so must an empire serve its citizens well for as long as it can. My hope is that Rome continues far beyond my lifetime, yet I prepare myself for all eventualities.
That's a Stoic perspective indeed. One last question. If you could offer a single piece of advice to future generations, my generation, what would it be?
I would say, cultivate your mind and your character above all. Empires crumble, fortunes vanish, fame fades. Yet the integrity of your soul endures. Whatever age you live in, strive to be virtuous, to serve the common good, and to look upon your fellow humans with empathy. Remember that the obstacles you face can be your greatest teachers. Accept what fate bestows, but do not neglect what is in your power, namely, to act with wisdom, courage, and compassion.
Emperor Marcus Aurelius, thank you for your generous answers. I've learned so much talking to you.
Safe travels, friend. May your future hold peace and reflection, and may the echoes of our conversation guide you wisely.
As Leo prepares to take his leave, the glow of a campfire lights the emperor's contemplative face. One senses the weight of responsibility and the gentle grace that temper it. The Danube frontier hums with activity, an empire pushing against the limits of its own greatness, led by a man who, in solitude, strives to remain virtuous.
What an experience! Marcus Aurelius's Stoic wisdom truly stands the test of time. Talking with him felt like receiving gentle guidance from a caring mentor who just happens to rule an empire.
Indeed, dear listeners, in an age of ceaseless bustle and distraction, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that introspection and empathy are timeless virtues. His life, lived under immense pressure, illuminates a path of moral clarity that echoes through centuries. We hope his words inspire you to be present, to act with purpose, and to remember that even in the face of great trials, our character remains our most cherished possession.